Hello guys, it's me, Greed here, and today I need to talk about Kiriko because I think I've got a rework for her that's going to make her a little bit less annoying to play against. So Kiriko has a lot of pain points, mainly that she's hard to punish or she feels like she gets out of jail for free. Suzu feels cheap or easy, kinda, for her to use. She doesn't really have any true counterplay, there's nothing you can really do against her. She has extremely clunky healing mechanics when you're playing as her, which is a big problem. I feel like her ult is too much of a win condition, where it feels as though the chances of a Kiriko winning a fight are dramatically higher when she's got ult, obviously, more so than other characters. I think she's designed around denying plays instead of incentivizing plays or being proactive in making her own plays, which is a big deal for Overwatch. I don't like characters that are designed around denying plays, and one of the biggest problems that is I think she's got infinite uptime, and that's because her healing output and her damage output are so dramatically high that regardless of the fact if she's going aggressive and flanking and dueling, or in her backline and healing things, she is always doing something that generates a lot of value, whereas a lot of other characters are capped behind certain value metrics that make it so that they can't be doing stuff all the time, which is healthier balance in my opinion, but Kiriko doesn't follow that. Now, my specific problem with all of these things that I've listed here isn't necessarily themself, if you understand what I'm saying. It's not necessarily that I think the Kunai is inherently overpowered or broken. I think it is when you combine it with everything else on this list. When you have a hero with the ability to duel with her kunais that is able to throw out healing like she is, where it's particularly easy, but it provides quite a lot of resource, especially to the squishier characters who are a better conduit for carry anyway, because she wants those aggressive angles where she can duel. Therefore, she's got more healing efficiency on those targets that she already wants to be on, and she gets the bigger advantage of being able to throw out kunais while she's doing it, because she's already automatically likely to be on the angle that she wants to be on. Combine that with Swift Step, where she's easier to access those angles with, Suzu to massively deny plays and maintain those angle superiority, keep that map control. Then you have things like Wall Climb for escape, Kitsune, which is a large win condition, it's an extremely strong ultimate, and you combine all of that with a really small hitbox that gives her a gigantic advantage, especially in the duel, but also for running away from people. The point of my rework is to specifically address the portions of Kiriko's kit that I think are poorly designed and make it so the gameplay with or against the carry, or even as a carry, can feel like a bad experience. I want to keep Kiriko's general design the same. I want to keep her playstyle relatively the same because I think it is a good playstyle, it's healthy. And I want to keep basically everything as close to carry as I can, but still changing her into the area where I think she makes more sense as an Overwatch character, and less so as this kind of cheese cannon that she is right now. First thing about Kiriko that needs to be changed is her Swift Step. I find her Swift Step to be the most problematic part of her kit, and actually not the Suzu. The reason I find the Swift Step to be the most problematic part of the kit is I think it gives her a level of freedom that other characters aren't allowed to have. And I agree that they shouldn't actually be able to have that freedom. I believe if you make a mistake, you should be able to be punished for it. However, Kiriko's Swift Step is a denial ability that's specifically made to make it so the Kiriko cannot be punished, and I find this to be problematic. So I would change this to a smoke bomb. So here are all the changes that I would do with Swift Step. First of all, it would be completely changed and it wouldn't work the same way at all anymore. It becomes a cloud of smoke with a tracer blink-esque thing attached to it, where you would throw it at the ground or you would just press the button. It would immediately pop you 5 meters in whatever direction you're looking, even vertically maybe. It makes a sound when it activates and it cannot be manually cancelled. The invis lasts 2.5 seconds, you get 20% increased movement speed when invisible, but you can't shoot or heal or use any cooldowns or ultimates. The cooldown is dropping from 7 to 6 seconds. Carry also can't see enemies in this form, but she can still hear them. This is specifically to address the invisibility problem in Overwatch, where something like Sombra has too much information while not giving enough. So I thought instead of making it so Kiriko makes sound when she's invisible, because that kind of denies the point, I'd make it so that Kiriko cannot see enemies, so she cannot perfectly execute onto targets. She has to first come out of invis, then gather information based on obviously what she sees, but she can also be collecting information while she's invisible because she can hear things. Maybe she'll hear Anna footsteps, she'll be able to move into a position where she thinks Anna might be, and then she can execute dive on her after she pops out of invis, but not knowing 100%. So it adds a little bit of inconsistency or human error to the invisibility to make it less broken like Sombra's. Another reason I'm making this is specifically so you get rid of that get out of jail free card. It's still an escape ability, it's still a dive tool, it's still everything that you could technically do with Swift Step that you were looking to do with Swift Step, but it gets rid of the inherent freedom of it because you have to manually do everything that you want to do. I also made it so you couldn't manually come out of invis because there were going to be some situations where you would pop invis, wall climb up a wall, immediately come out of it a second later, and then headshot a guy underneath you. There needs to be time for both targets to realize what's happening. So if Carrie wants to commit to using it, I think she should have to fully commit to using it. I like when things are commitment based, not when things are so easily cancelable. Same reason I don't like Genji deflect being cancelable. I wish you still had to wall climb to fix it. It's a different argument for Reaper Wraith. I'm okay with Reaper Wraith being cancelable, but specifically for Kiriko, I think Swift Step is problematic, and this makes her dramatically better at being a DPS style support, which is what she is. I like when Kiriko is off dueling people, I like when she's off fighting, less healing, more so healing when she needs to, more so healing DPS and so on that are on angles, or maybe committing flanks with her. I like when Kiriko operates like that instead of the hero she is now, where she commits dive into something, throws a couple of kunais, gets shot once or twice, and teleports out to safety. I don't like that you just get safety, so I've made it that if you want to commit those dives, then, well, you have to accept the fact that you might get punished for those dives now. However, I am adding additional changes to other parts of her kit that make diving as her feel substantially better. The next thing is that the healing Ofuru clunkiness is removed. If you throw out half your papers now, there's not some big long cooldown between being able to throw out the rest. So if you look at one target, throw 2 papers at that guy, you can immediately turn to another guy and start throwing papers at that guy as well. I found the clunkiness of the healing on Kiriko to be one of the biggest reasons I don't actually like playing her, is it just feels really bad to throw out 2 or 3 papers to a guy that's lost 20 HP and then be stuck in this big recovery animation that I don't think is necessary because you don't technically need to reload yet. I feel as though if you throw some of the papers, why can't I turn and throw the rest of them as well? Now for my Suzu change, which I think is the most important to tie this kit together. Firstly, Suzu invulnerability is completely removed and the burst has been entirely changed. No longer is it just 120 something raw burst healing for Suzuing a guy with a debuff on him. Doesn't work like that anymore. When you Suzu someone, they now immediately get 20 HP. They then are healed for 50 health over 3 seconds, so 70 healing total. It cleanses them like Suzu does now, and it gives them a new buff that makes it so new debuffs can't be applied. So things like Discord, Anti-Nade, the DPS passive, stuff like that can no longer be applied to those characters for those 3 seconds. Additionally, it grants a 20% speed boost to everyone affected by the Suzu, and the cooldown is dropped to 12 seconds. The reason for this is I want her to be a bit of an enabler as well as a solo character. So, for example, if you're playing like Ryan Zarya, if you're playing 6v6 or like Reinhardt or whatever it was in 5v5, then you were able to use the Suzu to give the Reinhardt an opportunity to walk through things that are predominantly pretty cancerous for Reinhardt to deal with. So, for example, you would be able to throw your Suzu on yourself and your Ryan, get a big speed boost, you're able to run off onto the angle that you want to fight on, and then he's able to run off and, you know, be enabled by the speed boost. So it gives both of you different opportunities. So because you are looking for 2 different things, Kiriko wants to go on an angle to fight 1v1s, Reinhardt wants to go run in and make loads of space and cleave loads of things with his hammer and so on. It makes it so that the Suzu can be applied and it works for both. It enables the Kiriko to run off and do the thing she wants to do, and it enables the rest of our team to use that team-wide utility to push advantages like dive or rush or so on. And that's specifically why I gave it things where the effect lingers over time and it gives a speed boost and so on, because I wanted it to be a thing where it was still a team-wide utility, however it also enables Kiriko to do things off while she's solo. It gives her the adaptability to be able to go, what do I want to use this on right now, which is what I was looking looking for. I was looking to make it similar to Nade, like Ana Nade, where you can use it to heal yourself, but then you can't use it to debuff the enemies. Or you can use it to debuff the enemies, but now you don't have it to save your Reinhardt if he's getting dove or something, right? That's what I was going for. I wanted it to be multi-purpose, so there was more decision-making in the opportunities, and you can go, oh, maybe I really need to save this right now, maybe I need a cleanse, or maybe I really need the speed boost, or whatever it is. There's more options, which I think is good for a carry player, because the more options you have, the more opportunities you have to either make good plays or bad plays. Therefore, those good plays and bad plays are more effective, therefore making it so that if you're a good carry player, the skill ceiling is much higher, but also keeping the abilities relatively easy to use so that they can be onboarded very easily. And I think that's what this does. I don't think it's perfect. It might provide a little bit too much utility, but the idea was that I wanted to make it so that the carry and her teammates could use it intertwined. So, now for her Kunai. I'm buffing the Kunai damage to 63 so that you're able to 2-tap 250 HP targets again. Critical hits, heal carry for 22.5 HP, which is 10% of her health bar. And she's getting damage fall off. This is to prevent her from like just chucking Kunais everywhere. I don't actually know what the damage fall off number should be. The idea was to just drop it to 90% max damage so that she couldn't 2-tap at max range anymore. I started it at 30 and ended it at 40. I don't know which one what range it should be at. I don't know what I should drop the numbers to, so I just came up with something that worked, though obviously all of that would need to be changed and addressed, and you need to look at the data and be like, what's like the average distance people are throwing kunais at to make it so it doesn't feel terrible, but it also stops the carry from being able to just like annihilate a Hanzo from across the map, right? The general idea of giving her the 2-tap back was specifically because she doesn't have the swift step to get out of danger for free anymore, and she doesn't have the Suzu that makes her impossible to kill in a duel. And for those reasons, I thought she might as well get the 2-tap back. But then I also thought, she's still easy to kill 225. I want to keep her 225 because her hitbox is so small, so I have to give her something. So I said, okay, I think if she lands a crit, she can get 22 health. It's not a lot, it's not meant to be a lot, it probably won't change the outcome of a lot of fights, but I like the idea of Kiriko being enabled and especially incentivized to go in, close the distance on people, and actually fight them in an area where she herself can be punished and killed, like a Genji would, but yet is also dramatically rewarded for. I thought the same way that Genji is rewarded for getting a kill with being able to dash back out, Kiriko should get rewarded for hitting a headshot by getting a little bit more health, so she's able to keep running around in the backline and being a little annoying, right? Obviously, that amount of healing would scale with the damage drop. Again, I don't really know what that would be, but I think Kiriko 2-tap is much healthier combined with the different Suzu and the different swift step. Now, last but not least is her Kitsune change, her ultimate change. I'm dropping the cost by 20%, so it goes from 25 ult points to 20. This is more in line with Blade ult cost, and you'll see why. I'm dropping the ult duration in half. I'm cutting it from 8 to 4 seconds. I'm making it so it grants 30% movement speed, like original Kitsune does, 50% reload and attack speed, like Kitsune usually does, and I'm cutting the cooldown recharge rate from 100% to 50%. So this is pretty huge nerfs for Kitsune, but that's for a specific reason. It's much cheaper. I don't want it to be as big of a win condition. I like it when ultimates and abilities in general happen more often, but are dramatically weaker. That way, they're not just held for the perfect moment. I hate gameplay that is the perfect moment, where it's just everyone holding their cooldown or their ultimate, and then, oh, one thing happens, everyone presses it because it becomes the perfect moment for everyone. I think that's boring. I want there to be more adaptability. I want there to be more times where you could go, oh, let's Kitsune this. Oh, maybe we want to chase these guys out. Maybe we want to, there's so many things you can do with a cheaper ultimate that's less effective. And that's what I was going for with Kitsune. Maybe it's still too expensive for how much I nerfed it. Maybe I nerfed it too much and it should be buffed back up, but still a little bit cheaper. I don't know. The general idea for this was I wanted it to be something like Blade or like Pulse Bomb, where it's a big burst of pressure, but it ends quickly. So it's not like current Kitsune where it just lasts fucking ages. And because current Kitsune is very like, oh, they're Kitsuneing, let's kite, because you're gonna lose it, right? You know what I mean? You gotta kite. The idea with this Kitsune is you can fight in it as both teams. Both teams are able to contest and fight in a Kitsune now because it's a lot weaker, but it happens a lot more often, which I find to be more interesting gameplay-wise. Maybe people will disagree. Obviously, the numbers aren't perfect. I'm obviously not able to test these things. I'm not good enough for the workshop, and I feel like even if I was good enough for the workshop, it would just be way too much effort to create a testing ground like this, when I could just brainstorm ideas with you guys, because you guys are smart too. Smarter than me, anyway. So, this was my Kiriko rework. I changed everything apart from the hitbox, basically. I tried to keep everything similar-ish, so Kiriko players wouldn't be too mad. But basically the idea was to add a little bit more skill to the character, add a little bit bigger of a punishment window to the hero, make it so that their cooldowns didn't feel as cheap to play as, or again, just remove a bit of the clunkiness. Give Kiriko players a bit more DPS potential while removing a little bit of their team-wide utility in the process, because I think she is better as a DPS style support, a bit like Zenyatta, and that's what the idea was. Hopefully it was good. Anyway, that was my Kiri rework. I hope you enjoyed. I love you all. I hope you have a good day. I love you, okay? Have a good day. Have a good day. Goodbye. 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 Goodbye.